right, welcome everyone to the Art of Pricing, maximizing revenue with smart pricing strategies. This has been a highly requested masterclass for doctors to better understand how to price their different services in their practice. And so we're going to break down the mindset around pricing. We're going to break down ASL, PSL, insurance, maximizing capacity, increasing prices, increasing LTV, the lucro stop loss we're going to talk about, and we're going to really break down and give you the understanding of how to make decisions around pricing in your practice and optimize for total profitability in your clinic, because that is the goal. That's what lucro stands for, is profit, and that's our entire goal, is help you optimize total profit. We know you'd much rather have 20% of a watermelon than 50% of a grape. So let's jump right into the overall mindset around pricing. When we talk about pricing mindset, what we really want to focus in on is value-based pricing. When you think about value-based pricing, what you're trying to do is trying to have the biggest gap between the price that you charge and the value that you deliver. And the bigger the gap between the two, the easier the decision. So if you charge $100 and someone thinks that it's worth, $95, they might not want to do it, right? But if you charge $100 and someone thinks it's worth $1,000, then that's a much easier decision. The bigger the gap between the value that you provide and the price that you ask for, the easier the decision. That's in all areas of life, whether you're buying a pair of shoes, whether you're making a value versus price decision of who you want to marry, whether you're buying a car, no matter what it is, we want to be able to drive the value up as high as possible so that price doesn't really seem like a consideration. And so when I talk to chiropractors, you guys all know on a regular basis, you guys are called miracle workers. Patients can't believe the results they get, how their lives have been changed. Ever since how chiropractic was founded in 1895 when D.D. Palmer got heart related to hear again after 17 years. Chiropractors and Jesus is what I tell people. They're the top people that are called miracle workers on a consistent basis. We know we have the greatest healthcare product in the world. We're changing people's lives without side effects, without symptoms. We're having massive impact on people's lives. I have a friend that works in the medical industry, and he said he's seen prices as high as $1,200 being charged at a hospital for a Band-Aid. $1,200 for a Band-Aid. And so if you're concerned about pricing and you think you're charging too much, or you're concerned about going up, just understand that we are being way outcharged for way less value in all sorts of other arenas throughout the world. Adam, give us a little more insight into mindset around pricing.
So the value-based pricing model is kind of the antithesis, the opposite of what you would probably hear more so is the cost-based pricing model. So if I had this pen and I want to sell this pen, what do? I go and I buy all the little components, I manufacture them together, I get a cost of, it cost me $2 to do it, so I'm going to have a little markup, and then I'm going to sell that in the market for X price. Okay, so that's cost-based pricing. That's what we're accustomed to. Value-based pricing is very, very different. It's not that model. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about costing. We're going to talk about different components around that, but you need to stay focused on the fact that you want to price according to value, and you don't want to fall into the trap of trying to cost everything and then add a markup. That is not the business model that we are working in.
Absolutely. So now let's just jump right in, Adam, to some of these next level details for people to understand how to get in the nitty-gritty of calculating what their pricing should be. So the first thing we need to talk about is what's called absolute stop loss. This is a very basic equation where you're going to take your total expenses, in a month and divide it by your total number of visits. So whatever your expenses were for last month, what is that total divided by your total number of visits? And that's going to give you a calculation of what your absolute stop loss is, or how much it costs you to deliver a single service. So let's say you do the math, you say total expenses divided by total number of visits, and let's say you come out with $40. $40 is your amount, that's your break-even point. If you get $40 per visit is what you make, then you're just going to be break-even. If you make less than $40 per visit, then you're losing money. Anything you make above $40 per visit is profitability, right? So pause this masterclass right now and calculate your absolute stop loss. That's imperative because we're going to be utilizing this ASL verbiage throughout the entire presentation, so you can really have a framework of where you should be, what the number should be right from the beginning. This is how much my expenses are costing me, so I have to charge a minimum of this amount just to break even. And so you need to have this understanding of this basic concept, and this is a number that you should recalculate on a consistent basis, once a month, at least once a quarter. All right. So you have that number, you paused it, you know what that number is. Let's not move on until you know that number. Now we're going to jump into the next level, which is PSL, or profit stop loss. And this is how much profitability you're going to make. So like, let's say your absolute stop loss number was $40 a visit. How much profit do you want to make above that, right? And you could do a simple, hey, I want to make $10 a visit, or I want to make $20 profit a visit. We highly recommend that you use the perfect P&L, understanding the perfect P&L on how much profit you should make. So Adam, give them some insight into the perfect P&L and calculating what the PSL should be.
Okay, so the perfect P&L, there's a whole video on the perfect P&L. It works out, whatever volume or revenue numbers you're at, what is your ideal profitability level? So obviously ASL is covering the bare minimum. We just don't want to lose any money. But we want to run profitable businesses, so we want to take our costs and we want to gross that up. We want to make it a little bit bigger because we want to account for some form of profitability. Now, this is not exactly the mathematical formula to do this, but it's much easier and it's going to give you a perfectly fine number to work with. But if you're looking at the perfect P&L and you're looking at your total cost structure, use your total cost structure. So let's say you're spending $50,000 a month on costs in your business. Use that as your notional top line revenue number. Whatever that perfect P&L tells you that your profitability should be at that level, so it's probably going to be about 30-35%, depending on the type of business you run, whether it's all adjustments or not, it's all in the perfect P&L. You're gonna then gross up that 30%, that $50,000 by 30%. So just go $50,000 plus 30%, okay, and you'll get that new number. So that's that new cost number, whatever it is, 70,000. I'm not going to do math live here right now. Okay, that becomes your new cost base. And then you're going to divide that by your number of visits. So now you're going to get your PSL. So what we're doing is saying, okay, ASL is the bottom level. PSL is what the pricing should be if we want to factor in making that desired profitability for every single adjustment that we're doing.
Awesome, absolutely. So again, ASL, PSL, pause the video if you haven't calculated these, get these numbers before you move on. These are just fundamental data points. And that's a big thing that we talk with a lot of doctors on is, you might not like math, but that's a part of business, right? And we can take a lot of that off your shoulders with Lucro and give you the reports and tee it up for you and hand it on you on a silver platter. At the end of the day, you got to do a little bit of math. You just need to that's a part of business, running a successful business. You need to understand your numbers. You need to make decisions. If you can make these decisions based on your numbers, you're going to have so much more clarity. You're going to have so much more confidence in making decisions and saying, I don't know what I don't know, or feel like you're gambling or risking or just making guesses. If you have your concrete numbers, you can make such better black and white business-based decisions. You can have so much more confidence and you can move forward, you can scale, you can get to the next level versus stressing and saying, was that the right decision? Is that the wrong decision? Having confidence, understanding these numbers is fundamental for you to be able to grow and scale with confidence. So there are going to be some limitations, especially with insurance reimbursements, Adam. So let's talk about that.
So naturally, you can't always control your pricing. So maybe you're a network with your insurance companies and you're now getting dictated to. Here is how much you're going to receive for a particular treatment, and you can't now, yes, you want to base your pricing on something or you have a fee, but you're limited to how much you can actually collect. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to then take our ASL and we want to measure, we actually want to take our reimbursement rate, the fixed reimbursement rate, and we want to measure that against our ASL. So we want to see where are we in comparison to our ASL. Are we below our ASL or are we above our ASL? Now, if we are below the ASL, okay, we want to now start to make some decisions around that. If we are above our ASL, we're at least in a good range. So now we're at least above the minimal factor, and we want to try and move that cost or that fee. They want that to be as close to PSL as possible. And I'm going to talk to you about ways of trying to move your fixed reimbursement rate up closer to PSL. But if you are below ASL, okay, this is a major problem. And there's actually only one way to say this. You are running an unsustainable business model. You are not generating sufficient levels of revenue in order to support your cost base. That is what ASL is. It's your cost base minus your minimum, divided by the number of visits. So if you are collecting less than your ASL, you are running an inefficient business. There's no ways you can scale this business. There's no ways you're going to generate a profit. You're running into a problem. So the first thing you need to do is either stop taking insurance completely and move to a cash model. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that's drastic. Well, it's less drastic than closing down your business, because your business cannot function if it's not going to make enough money compared to its costs. It's going to lose money every month. You're going to run out of money. You're going to go bankrupt, and your business is closed down anyway. So you may as well take a route that, as drastic as it is, at least safeguards some potential future. So you've got to stop. and you got to move towards insurance. Now, maybe a less drastic route is to talk about maybe utilizing that more as a loss leader. Now, I'm going to let Dr. Josiah talk a little bit more about a loss leader, but what I just want to go back one step and say, if you are above your ASL and you are not close enough to your PSL, this is also applicable. You need to start thinking about, hey, well, I can't only rely on this kind of small margin here. I've got to think about what Dr. Josiah is going to talk about, loss leaders. I've got to think about maybe trying to do cash, because the ideal reimbursement rate, well, the ideal amount that you receive for your treatment, whether that is a cash price, whether that is a reimbursement rate, needs to be as close as possible to PSL. The further away south or below PSL it is, the less profitable your business is. If it starts going below ASL, you have an unsustainable business model. So another way to, if you don't want to stop completely, is to treat insurance as a stop loss. And a loss leader. And I will let Dr. Josiah talk about that, because he's got a really good analogy around how that functions.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a framework that actually blew my mind when I first realized how this operated. What I first learned about is in grocery stores. You guys probably always see the ads on a regular basis for grocery stores. So what's most commonly discounted? It's eggs, milk, butter, things that are in the very back of the store. If you ever go to any grocery store, those are always the furthest back from the front doors, right? And they have them at a very discounted rate. And they're actually typically discounting less than their own costs. They're actually losing money when you buy those eggs. But they know you're no way you're going to walk through the front door of a grocery store, walk all the way to the very back, buy eggs, for 97 cents or milk or butter, and walk out with nothing else. They know you're not going to do that. Just like if Costco gets you to come for one thing, you're going to walk out with $400 in your cart, right? And so that's the entire premise is, my clinic is 98% cash, only 2% insurance. And so we do take insurance on the front end, but it's more, hey, we are in network with insurance. We want to decrease the barrier for people to be able to come into our office. They want to utilize their insurance. They pay for it. They want to utilize the benefits that they do have, but we know that insurance is just a band-aid. Health insurance is very similar to car insurance. It only covers, emergency care on the front end, get them out of pain. It doesn't cover long-lasting corrective care like we want to transition people to and get them into wellness care. So, how can you leverage that to get people in, to utilize them, help get them out of pain, but really to convert them and understand the chiropractic lifestyle of what they want to achieve and how they want to get to the next level. So again, if you can view it from different points of perspective, but at the end of the day, you really need to have this frame of mind about how you're leveraging. It's a very similar concept where lots of doctors do initial consultations or new patient specials at very discounted rates. You're losing money on the front end, but you're making it up on the back end. And that's very, very similar, from a care plan modeling or discounted wellness-based pricing, some of the things that we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, now Adam, so we've talked about ASL, we've talked about PSL, we've talked about, insurance and fixed reimbursements. Now we really want to jump into kind of those next level areas, of how we can start implementing action step with what we're already working with. Let's jump right into those.
So yeah, we have this price, okay? And maybe we can move it, maybe we can't move it. Ideally, we want to move it, we want to be closer to PSL, but that's not the only factor that's going to drive long-term success in your business. It's just not like one thing, the price is right, everything's fine. There are three particular levers that we can pull that is a little bit of a compound effect of taking whatever price point you have. Again, if it's sub ASL, we've got a major problem. But even if it's closer to ASL, not quite close to the profit level that you want, but you can utilize these three levers to still build a highly profitable and highly successful business. And so the first lever is maximizing capacity. And this is a concept that Dr. Josiah brought to the table that is absolutely ingenious. And he'll talk about some of the nitty-gritties of it. And I think it's a metric and it's a stat that is probably one of the most powerful metrics out there in the chiropractic industry, that if we grasp it correctly, we'll probably not only change the fundamental performance of our business, but also the mindset we have, is operating at maximum capacity. Understanding if we want to maximize our business and maximize how much money we make, we want to operate at maximum capacity. Anything less than maximum capacity is a lot of wasteful expenditure. We're just leaving money on the table. We're paying for this rent, we're paying for this team, we're paying for all these things, but we're generating way less revenue than we should be. And the natural impact of that is remember when we calculated ASL what is your total cost? Well, your total costs stay fixed, whether you're at 60% capacity or 80% capacity or 90 or 100% capacity. There may be some small little pieces that increase, but by and large, your costs stay the same. So the number of adjustments you had, remember we said total cost divided by the number of adjustments. If you can keep the total cost the same and divide the number of adjustments, and that number is bigger, so it's not 100 adjustments, it's 200 adjustments or 300 adjustments, what happens to your ASL? It goes down significantly. And that's how you start to use this lever and this compound effect. So that's what maximum capacity is, understanding how much could you see, what is your maximum level of treatments that you can do, and trying to be as close to them as possible. And we've got a bit of a calculator, and I'll let Josiah kind of break that down for you, because there's a lot of gold there in understanding maximum capacity.
Absolutely. Adam hit it on the head. Whether you have 100% of your schedule filled or 20% of your schedule filled, your expenses don't change. And so one of the easiest ways to calculate that is just on new patients. For example, let's just say, you can see 10 new patients, you have 10 1-hour slots for new patients. It takes 30 minutes for a new patient. You can see 20 new patients on a weekly basis. There's 4.3 weeks in a month. 20 times 4.3 is 86. That's your potential capacity of new patients you could see. I always think of it like if you have 1,000 people at your front door, waiting to get in for a new patient, appointment. What is your current capacity based on your current hours, your current staff, your current location? How many people could you process as a new patient that week, right? And then what are you averaging? What in the last 6 months? How many are you actually averaging per month? And so then you take that average divided by your potential, and that's you're going to get your percentage of schedule filled. So I highly recommend, again, pause this, calculate that for new patients, for adjustments, for all your different appointment types. You actually have an entire masterclass dedicated to that. I'll get you for a link in a little bit, but that's going to calculate what's called your percentage of schedule filled. And so we found in the profession, we've talked with now over 1,000 doctors and done this calculation. The average in the profession that we found is about 20% of schedule filled. And that means that most doctors can generate 5 times more revenue than they're currently generating without their expenses changing, except the cost to acquire those people. And so if you can maximize your capacity, this is a huge way to optimize, like I said, your pricing, because your ASL is going to dramatically go down. Your expenses aren't going to change because you have increasing the number of visits that you're seeing without increasing the expenses, like I said, set the cost to acquire those people. So the majority of your expenses not changing while dramatically improving the volume of what you're seeing, dramatic decrease in ASL, massive increase in profitability when all you're getting is mostly revenue, very little increase in expenses. So do that whole calculation if you haven't done it already. Massive value. A lot of people's favorite masterclass is that 5x your revenue masterclass. This next one is increasing prices. Obviously, this is the most basic. You were talking about the art of pricing. What's the easiest way? Increase your pricing. Okay, that's very fundamental. But to really get nitty gritty, the biggest thing that changed my mind and really blew my mind about pricing is that originally when I had my prices, I thought, okay, well, if I want to make twice as much money, I need to charge twice as much I'm currently charging. That's not the case at all. To double your profitability, you just need to increase your price by your profit margin. So if you're charging $50 a visit and you have a 20% profit margin, you need to increase your price by 20% or $10. If you go from $50 a visit to $60 a visit, nothing else changes. You're literally doubling the profitability of your entire business. If you have a 40% profit margin, $50 a visit to $70 a visit. That's literally going to double your entire profitability of your business because it doesn't cost any more to deliver a $70 visit than it does the cost of $50 visit. There's no additional expenses, so all of that increase is 100% profit. Okay, this is an absolute game changer. Pause this and just think about it for a second. What is your number? What's your profit margin? Okay, that's going to double my profitability right there, right off the bat. And so if you think about that, what then is the impact? If you go, like I said, from $50 to $70 a visit, and you're doubling your profitability, unless you lose over 50%, of your sign-up rates or your retention rates, then that is going to be a better long-term decision. I'm going to touch on that one in just a second, but Adam's going to talk a little bit about, well, how high can we go based on these different factors, the perfect P&L being one of them.
So obviously, how high can you go as high as humanly possible? Remember, we talk about value-based pricing. We want this to be the most valuable. We want to price it to what this value is. Now, obviously, you're going to run into some limitations. So the real limitations, Dr. Zai will talk about in competitive and close rates. But a guideline that you can use is the perfect P&L. Because what the perfect P&L does is it allows you to calculate that PSL and it allows you to keep track of what is your ideal pricing rate in terms of PSL. So if you measure it consistently enough, so every couple of months you're measuring what is my PSL, and you're starting to see, hey, my PSL is now overtaking, it's higher than what my actual price point is, then we need to start thinking about moving that price point because we want to stay as close to PSL as possible. We want to be beyond that, of course, but we want to be as close to PSL as possible. So we use the perfect P&L to calculate that PSL and use it as our constant barometer of, are we as close to that as possible from a pricing perspective?
Absolutely. Competitive analysis is a very basic one, right? What is the area that you live in? We have a client that's 2 blocks away from Central Park in New York City, right? The cost of his rent, the cost of his employees, the cost of everything is going to be much higher for him. So the cost of a visit is also going to be much higher, based on where you're located, whether it be in your town or in your city or in a state. That's going to be different than someone who lives in a 1,000-person town in North Dakota, right? There's going to be different analysis. So where are you placed in your area? What are the services that you provide? How much value do you provide? Again, value-based pricing. Again, you can do competitive analysis, but hopefully you think you're the best, or you're the best in the area, and that you have the value to back that up. As I touched on earlier, close rates and retention rates. Like I said, if you're increasing it by your profit margin and that's doubling your profitability, unless you lose over 50% of people, then you're going to increase your profitability. Even if you have a lower sign-up rate, you're still going to generate more income with less people. So you're actually doing less work and higher income, right? That's a double win, less work and generating more money, whether that be on the initial sign-up rate or the retention rate. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about lifetime value and wellness care next, and how you might want to factor that in with trying to generate reoccurring revenue, right? And so lifetime value is really the next big leverage point that we want to dive into, and understanding, well, how can we increase the lifetime value of a client, even if our prices stay the same, right? And so the very first, most obvious one, like I was just talking about, is transitioning people into wellness care. Whatever your initial phase of care is, how can you transition people into a lifetime of care? They come in for an initial complaint, a symptom, a problem that you want to get them from where they're at to where they want to be, right? And then you want to help them maintain, right? Adam has a great analogy where he talks about, you can't just go to the gym and get fit, one time. You got to keep going back to the gym consistently to stay fit. And it's exactly the same thing with wellness care. We help clients understand you might have to put in more work initially to get to where you want to be, but then you can maintain that, a lot easier by coming in less frequently and maintaining all the great success you have achieved in transitioning people into wellness care. And so, transitioning to a reoccurring monthly payment, but at a discounted rate, is a very easy way to do that. Those people are going to require less work. They're going to require less energy. They're going to be bought in. They're going to ideally be referring their friends and family members. And then they also might start being interested in other protocols within your clinic. They're going to be coming into your office on a consistent basis. Maybe you have other options, that could also get them better, faster results. Or obviously you can have other options from the very beginning that can get better, faster results, help them achieve their goals in a quicker pace, right? Because that's what everyone cares about: speed, time. How long is this going to take? How much cost is it going to, be? What work do I have to put in to get to these results, right? And so if you can help them achieve the results at a faster, better results than they possibly could, then that's obviously going to be more valuable, and that's value-based pricing. And so we have an entire masterclass where you can actually calculate the lifetime value of a client based on every different type of protocol or appointment type you have in your clinic. That's also going to give you lots of insight into how much you can spend on marketing based on the lifetime value of each of your clients. All right, so now what we want to jump into is what Adam created. It was called the LSL, or the lucro stop loss, right? We understand the absolute stop loss. We understand the profit stop loss. We understand these leverage points within your clinic. Okay, but then how can you really apply this from a holistic standpoint to really evaluate your pricing, your numbers, and increasing the total profitability of your business?
So the idea is we don't want to just be average. We don't want to just operate and cover our costs and make a small little margin and carry on. No, we want to run highly, highly successful businesses. And so if we raise the standard, if we're constantly talking about ASL, we're constantly talking about just covering our costs, we're going to be thinking about that lower point. We want to change that kind of framework, and we want to change that way of thinking and say, let's aim for maximum performance. And the way we do that is understanding that pricing is just one of the wheels, like one of the little components in a bigger machine. Okay, it's just one of the little cogs in a bigger machine. And if we understand that if those little machines, those little cogs, they all work together, and when we piece them together, we build a highly profitable and sustainable business, let that become our ultimate stop loss. Let that performance level, let that raised standard become the minimum point of which we operate. Not down there at the bottom of just trying to get our pricing to cover our costs. Let's raise the entire standard. So how do we do that? Well, we use the perfect P&L framework. It's what we do. And we use that framework in order to understand how all these different components in your business accumulate together to optimize for maximum profitability. Not just maximum profitability on one treatment, not just maximum profitability in one little area, total maximum profitability that you can generate, dollar for dollar, not margin, not some percentage, not some KPI, actual physical money that lands in your bank account every single month that you are generating as a profit that you can take and utilize in your life and your business to grow and scale and do the things that you want to do. That's what we need to maximize for. That's what we're optimizing for. That's the entire focus. And so let's raise the standard and make that our standard of operation. And we're using pricing as just one of those key components. And so another way and a way to make that reality is this process of continual reevaluation and improvement. It is why we are such sticklers about the perfect P&L model. It's why we make sure our reports are sent out every single month. They come out timely every single month. They're simple to read. They're KPI driven. Why? We want to give you the baseline level of information that you can utilize in order to evaluate your performance of your business, then maybe reevaluate it, check it against something historical. Are we getting better? If not, what can we do right now to improve? And the cycle of continual improvement. And Josiah alluded to my analogy of, I was once told that, I was talking about something else, but I was once told that you don't go to the gym once and be strong forever. Okay, you've got to go consistently. It's got to be a consistent process. And what we want to create with Lucro, and what is part of the Lucro stop loss, what is part of the minimum standard at Lucro, is this mindset of continual improvement, of taking this financial information that you are being given, whether that's pricing, whether that's ROI, team, perfect P&L, whatever it is, and utilizing that to evaluate your business, make good decisions, and move forward. Whether that's 1%, 2%, 0.1%, half a step, little step, maybe you're going to step backwards initially, then a step forward. It's just got to be continual. And I was talking with a client just the other day, and actually it was yesterday, and they looked at their report, and there were a couple of areas of their report that wasn't great, and they spent a lot of time trying to justify to me why their report wasn't good. And I said, stop. With all due respect, you're doing the wrong thing. I don't earn your profit. It doesn't go into my bank account. It doesn't go into your client's bank account. It doesn't go into your patient's bank account, your staff member's bank account. Your profit goes into one place and one place only, to your benefit. Stop justifying to me or to anyone else what your performance looked like. You just have to talk to yourself. This is your mechanism of saying, what's happening? What do I need to do to improve? Justification doesn't mean anything. Utilize the information to evaluate or reevaluate, to retest, to refigure out, and then make better decisions to move forward. And that needs to become the Lucro stop loss. And that's why we built what we built. That's why we have those components of pricing and all our other resources and the perfect P&L and our reporting. That all exists so that we can run businesses at the highest possible standard so that you can make more and more money to take more and more money home to your family.
Absolutely, and Adam hit it on the head. We're maximizing total profitability. Again, we want to have 20% of a watermelon, not 50% of a grape, and want to continually be successful month over month, year over year. And by having this feedback loop of data, financial data as the initial framework, then you can go into EHR data, marketing data, team data, all these other fundamental smaller level KPIs. But at the top level of any business decision is the P&L, total income, total amount spent on team, marketing, overhead, and total profitability of the business. That's the financial framework that you need to look first and foremost. That should be the first lens that you evaluate your business based on, and everything else follows through from there. So hopefully that was a fantastic masterclass for you today about the art of pricing, how you can understand ASL, PSL, how you can understand insurance reimbursements, maximizing capacity, increasing pricing, increasing LTV, the Lucro stop loss, and again, just have the right mindset around pricing, what it takes to be successful, what you can do to be the most successful possible, run the most profitable business, have the biggest impact. Again, remember, Jesus and chiropractors, if we're the top people that are called miracle workers, if we truly have the greatest healthcare product in the world, right, then we provide way more value than we ever can potentially ever charge. If you're not a client already, we would love to help you get your business to the next level by understanding your financial data. Take action, schedule a call with us. We look forward to talking with you soon.